Council, if I can get a motion to approve the agenda as amended, or with add-ons. Councillor Gilliland, seconded. Councillor Thompson, any comments or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, using your tabulators, call a vote. Oh, Councillor Humphreys is not here yet. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. First, we have a community presentation. Ms. Teresa Buck, Communication Coordinator, Special Olympics Aurora, regarding Special Olympics Aurora overview. Welcome, Teresa. You have 5 minutes.
I'm going to do it fast.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff, and residents. I'd like to thank the Mayor for the invitation to present, to you this evening an overview of Special Olympics Aurora. I'm Teresa Buck, Communications Coordinator and Athlete Leadership Facilitator. Special Olympics is a charitable non-profit organization that provides sports training and competition opportunities for individuals with intellectual disabilities. Special Olympics phenomenon began in 1965 when Canadian physical education professor of London, Ontario, Dr. Frank Hayden, determined through research that mental capabilities of people improved as their physical capabilities increased as a result of frequent physical activities. Today, Special Olympics has grown to serve over 2 million athletes who have an intellectual disability in more than 150 countries around the world, and we are part of that. We have also been part of the Aurora sports community since 2008, beginning with the Aurora Special Ducks in collaboration with the Aurora Ducks swim team. Since this amalgamation of sport, we have continued to grow and currently offer 7 sports that include 9 sports programs that run year-round. These sports include swimming, basketball, bocce, golf, softball, rhythmic gymnastics, and soccer. We have 110 athletes and 95 volunteers. Athletes can range in age from 8 to 90. However, there are 2 programs offered by the town of Aurora. The first is Active Start, a program for children aged 2 to 6, and Fundamentals for children aged 7 to 12 that assist in preparing the children from this young age for participation in Special Olympics Aurora sport-specific programs. We strive for, well, I'm not going to do that because we have 5 minutes. So, our 2018 year was a very rewarding year for Special Olympics Aurora. In April, we celebrated our 10th anniversary and the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics movement. In recognition of both achievements, we arranged a flag-raising ceremony and a declaration by the town crier at the town hall that announced April as Special Olympics month. The actual written declaration and flag are available for viewing in our trophy case at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex. And we will be requesting from the town that April again becomes the official Special Olympics month here in Aurora. We also introduced the inaugural annual swimathon at the SARC. It was a project initiated by swimmers Mary and Sally Haber, Nancy Black, and a host of volunteers and participants. Plans are in place for a repeat during the home show this year. Last summer, 2 of our athletes, Gary Freeman and Nathan, supported by their coach Lloyd, who was part of a mission staff, were part of Team Ontario and represented Aurora in the national championships in Nova Scotia. Both participated in the winning competition and returned home victorious. And Gary has 3 medals to prove that.
3 gold medals.
3 gold medals.
25 press and 100 relay.
At the AGM in September, each sport recognized an Athlete of the Year, and the overall Athlete of the Year was Gary Freeman. We also recognized a Volunteer of the Year, and we are proud to announce Deb Finier as a recipient. She was also recognized by Sport Aurora at their volunteer breakfast in November. Deb coaches swimming and golf and is the golf tournament co-chair as well as an all-hands-on-deck type of person. The public speaking program has been running for several years and has morphed into the Athlete Leadership Program. Aurora was chosen to host an Athlete Leadership Day at the library. Special Olympics Aurora is seen as an exemplary organization and very highly respected at at the provincial level for our ongoing athletes. 2019, we're going to see our athletes participate in the provincial qualifiers in basketball, swimming, and rhythmic gymnastics. Special Olympics Games work on a 4-year competitive cycle. We added a volunteer who now will focus on the new Healthy Lifestyles program to supplement our sports offerings. We also added a volunteer to a position that will reach out to local agencies and service clubs that service individuals with intellectual disabilities. We will continue to focus our efforts on our annual polar plunge, swim-a-thon, and the golf tournament. We're always, of course, looking for participants, hole sponsors, prizes, and silent auction donations. So if you hear of anything, keep us in mind. And with that, and finally, we will continue to concentrate on attracting new volunteers for positions as coaches, managers, volunteers at large, and for succession planning. It has been a privilege to attend this evening really quickly and highlight a volunteer agency that we're very proud to be part of. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for, and thank you for coming. Before we are going to do something new, and when these community presentations come from our sports organizations, we will be presenting and recognizing certain volunteers or athletes within those organizations moving forward. And so I'll ask council at that time that we all come to the center and recognize those that are being presented for the evening. But for right now, if there are any comments or questions from councillors to Teresa and Deb and Gary, we can ask those at this time before we do the presentation. So, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much, Teresa, and for coming here tonight. So great to see you and everyone. I'm just so thrilled for Aurora Special Olympics, and anything we can do to help. I think I heard you say something about you're looking for silent auction items. Volunteer. Can you explain a little bit more? And is there an event, a date that we should have in mind?
So right now, what's coming up is our golf tournament, and that date is June.
Oh yes, I'm golfing.
13th, yeah. So by June.
Yeah.
By June.
Yeah, I loved it. I went last year. I'm going this year again. But so silent auction items for your golf tournament.
Hole sponsors, anything. We'll
Anything.
take anything.
Anything. Okay, perfect. And did we contact you for that?
Deb?
You can contact me.
Deb? Okay, perfect. Great.
Is there a specific number or a web address you'd like to?
I think we do have one, but
We'll get back. We'll get
we-
back.
If
Maybe
you
we'll
could
get
let us
back.
know, perfect. Thank you, Miss. If you can let us know, because I would love to help. Absolutely. I've got some things I think you'd like for your silent auction table, and it's always a great event. So thanks. Thanks so much. And congratulations again. We're so proud of you. Really proud of you. Thanks.
I've been involved 40 years this year.
Oh, wow. Incredible. Thanks so much.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for coming and showing us this presentation. I absolutely loved everything I saw there, and I learned so much about what you guys do, and it's absolutely amazing. Congratulations on your win. I am more than happy to help out wherever I can. You also mentioned you're asking us to have April as a special Olympic month. Is that something that we do? It's already something we do already. Do we have to ask staff for that, or what do we have to do for that?
I think we've done it on a yearly basis, and we will continue that. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure of
We
it.
haven't submitted the proclamation yet, but it's coming this week.
That's, yeah.
Perfect. Well, definitely think that's
Yeah.
great. So,
Mr. Clerk can answer that if you just
oh,
like.
yeah.
Very quickly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My office does handle the proclamations, and we've processed this one as we do every year. I'm quite happy to. So it should be, if it's not out, it will be very shortly.
I love
Thank
it. I love it. Keep doing it, guys. It's awesome. Thank you.
So I'm seeing no other comments or questions, so I'll ask council if we can go to the middle. But before we do, Teresa, Gary, Deb, thank you very much for coming out. And it is exciting that you are actually our first organization to come forward with this new initiative to recognize those that are, whether they volunteered or at a high level have competed, and whether they've won or just basically brought recognition to our town and made our town proud. And so, thank you very much for everything that you do through Special Olympics for Aurora, and we appreciate everything. So thank you. And so I'll ask council if we can just go to the middle, and maybe you can meet us, and we'll give you guys your awards. Why is mine off? Oh. Okay. So council, we'll move on to delegations. We have two delegations this evening. First up, we have Doug McPherson, resident, in regards to item R5, stop control removal at Corbett Crescent and Cassia Drive. Mr. McPherson. Welcome. You have 5 minutes, sir.
So this thing's rocking and ready to go. As everybody knows, here I'm Doug McPherson. I live in Cossar Drive, actually at the corner of Cossar Drive and Corbett. And I truly do believe that that stop sign and crosswalks removal is going to be a lot less safe there for the children. And I pointed out in the email that you got that that crosswalk and sidewalk was designed specifically for the school children and seniors from around the neighborhood to use to get from off of Cosworth and Springburn up into the schools across Murray Drive. I've lived here since 1976. I've got a vested interest in the safety of for our children and people who use that area. And the removal of it is going to cause some concern. I have a few neighbors here tonight, but they're here to support me, but I've got a lot of support in the neighborhood to go. I know the crosswalk isn't painted now, and that's because I thank the Works Department to have corrected the grade on it so the water runs out of the crosswalk rather than sit there. How many of you lived here for 42 years in the council? This is my home. And when you start messing with it, I'm going to be upset about it. But I truly believe it's a bad spot. I've worked with the kids here 18 years in minor hockey. I know a lot of them. I see them now, they meet me on the street and they got 2-year-old and 4-year-old children with them, and makes me a little worried to go. So I really hope that you hear that I'm concerned about the safety. And when I talk about the safety, I don't know how many of you know Corbett Crescent and Cossar where it meets. And I've got up in the middle of the night and there's a car sitting in one driveway sideways. Another time it's sitting in the neighbor's lawn, all 4 wheels up in it. And other times coming up Cossar, they're speeding so fast that it ends up in the lawn or the driveway up in that area. I don't know what the reason is for moving it or what makes it so unsafe, because there's good vision coming up Cossar. You can see the crosswalk. Where it turns down is when you're coming down Corbett. Of course, my property and fence and stuff are there. It makes it a little harder to see which 3 or 4-year-old child's running up the sidewalk and doesn't know to stop. And I'm afraid one of these days, unless we can slow these people down and learn that a stop sign, 1 second, that's all the law asks you, 1 second to stop. So it's not like you're wasting your whole day. So I truly hope that you can come to a resolution with some changes that make it safer. That post office box that our federal post office system put there certainly didn't help the safety there, because now we have cars parked left and right while people go across and leave their cars and slow the intersection down. And I don't see any parent making it any safer for the children there, or the buses that go with a load of children in them roll through that stop sign. So I've had the police come and sit there. They've at time have made some tickets for people, but like they say that they can't be there all the time. Anyways, I thank you for your time, and I hope that somebody sees the reason why about 28 members of our community, I think there, disagree in having it removed. And I can only say that in person and hope that it stays there as a safety item, or the recommendations that have come as brought to my ears by Sandra Humphrey, that some of those changes are put there as well. I just don't want to have to live thinking about little Michaela being run down by somebody. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, if you can just wait, there might be some questions for you, Mr. McPherson. There might be some questions. First, can I get a motion to receive and refer to item 5? Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Gardner. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you.
Question?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mayor. Thank you so much, Mr. for coming this evening. Obviously, you're very passionate about this. You've seen, I guess you've lived here a long time. I think my mother-in-law can beat you, though. She's third generation Auroran, so I won't say her age, but I'm just teasing. Quick question for you. Do you know, do you remember what year that stop sign was put up? Do you remember?
That stop sign would have gone up in somewhere right around 1969, 71, I believe.
Okay.
I can't be specific about that
Right.
because when I moved to the town in 76, it was
Sure.
already there.
So it was there when you moved here anyway,
Yes.
right? So it's interesting. So after you and I chatted, and I know that we had a really good report from staff, I understand where they're coming from because it's a one directional stop sign. But I do understand it's a very unusual street. Like the 90-degree turn is really unusual. We don't design streets like that anymore. And I know that we're going to be putting up, as per staff's recommendations, some additional signage. And so, but I'm a little concerned about removing the stop sign as well. Of course, I went and spoke to some local residents, and including some people I know on the fire department that are familiar with that area. And for them, a stop sign, understanding it provides, from our report, sort of a false sense of safety for pedestrians, because I think there's stops on both sides. It's just the way the directional traffic flows. It's very, very different. So I appreciate your feedback tonight, and I'm going to ask, I'm not sure if council will indulge me, but I would like to ask staff to come out and do a little bit more work in terms of watching what happens here. I'm sure that the information was pulled from a policies perspective, but I'll be asking that again during council tonight for further clarification. And then ask if we can bring this back for a little bit further review in terms of perhaps leaving the stop sign and adding the additional signage to warn pedestrians that this is a one-directional stop sign and you need to be very careful here, because something that's been here since 1969, no change in the street design, and removing a stop sign I think would be a little confusing, because mostly that's not a throughway, that's really an area where people mostly live to go to and from, and when you have company and visitors, I'm sure they'll be careful, but really this is more of a pedestrian safety thing. So I just wanted to share that with you tonight, and thank you for coming forward and speaking passionately about your town, because it's all our town. We all want to support you in that way. Thank you.
Could I
Was that a question, Councillor Humphreys?
No,
No? Okay.
I thought I
Can
would just talk.
add something in there then? If
Sure.
you do take that down, then what I would like to see is I know the speed is only 40. I'd like to see it reduced another 5 kilometers an hour, because they have this new fancy thing, the young people, about zipper stuff. Zip in front of somebody, scared the heck out of them. I just like to see it slow down. And I've too many times seen too much happen. And just last week when I was putting the blue bin and the green bins out, I have a red Mazda. I don't know where that person lives. Come around the corner and a little bit of ice and it slipped. The next thing it's coming sideways at me.
Yeah.
That stop sign would have helped there, and I still don't see what the safety aspect of it is. And if I could come and join you one of your committee meetings, I did sit with Bill Clemson, George Clemson, sorry, and John West and Tim Jones and a bunch of people on citizens committees for 4 years. So I understand. I'd like to know why it's unsafe, because you got a good clear vision when you come down Gossar, and the limited on Corbett where the stop sign is put there to actually ask people to stop. And I'm just so afraid that one of these days there's going to be something, and we have had accidents there. And I'll
Thank you.
finish my time and say thanks again.
No, there's still
Oh,
some
you still
more.
got 2 more people want to ask you questions, so. Councillor Thompson.
I do have a question. No, thank you, Mr. McPherson.
He actually has a question.
I do. The reason the report is before us is because it started out with says that it was in response to complaints, and so staff investigated. I'm assuming not only do you know the neighborhood well, but I'm assuming that you know your neighbors fairly well. Have you ever heard of people on the street complaining about that stop sign in the past?
I've heard people say to me, I don't know why it's there. And generally, they're people like the ones that, whoa, that's a stop sign, why didn't you stop? They're the people who are saying that. I've not had one neighbor be negative about it being there that I'm sure of. And you can ask my 2 neighbors. I'm a chatty kind of a guy, so everybody that walks my street, I talk to. I'm born in Northern Ontario. We even talk to the birch trees up there.
So for the most part, any complaints you've heard really have to do more with stopping on the street.
Well, people not stopping. Chris across the corner would really be happy if people would stop sliding into his driveway, kind of things. It's just the speed that does it. And I don't know how you slow people down today, because it's become the new norm.
Sure.
You don't stop at stop signs. I do have a relative in York Regional Police Department, actually my son, who says it's become the new norm. And you could be 1,000 places all at one time. They're just not equipped to be everywhere all the time. They did have a non-marked cruiser on the street for a couple of days. They got 8 tickets, but then they have to move on to more important stuff.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay? Nice to talk to you, Michael.
Okay. Oh, no, one more. Councillor Gardner. Don't go anywhere. Not yet.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to thank you for your obvious care and concern that you have for the community. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. McPherson. Thank you very much for coming out this evening. Call the question. Well, it is receive and refer, but you got to use your tabulator. I'm going to stop saying it, use your tabulator, because we should all be used to it by now. I'm just going to say I'm calling the question. That carries. So next we have Dr. Brian Moore in regards to bylaw to amend bylaw number 5840-16, respecting signs within the town of Aurora. Dr. Moore, you have 5 minutes, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for taking my delegation tonight. My name is Dr. Brian Moore of 15,000 Yonge Street. I'm here tonight to speak on the proposed changes to the sign bylaw. In my previous delegations, I presented on the need for businesses to have portable A-frame signs in order to easily communicate a specific message that can be seen by members of the town who are walking or driving past the location. I also presented a comprehensive review done in association with the Chamber of Commerce that contains specific recommendations with regard to signage in Aurora. I appreciate that Council has listened to the business desire for portable signage and have requested that they be added to the sign bylaw. Tonight I would like to address the specific provisions that will govern these signs. On the global scale, and I hope that I'm correct here, I'm concerned that the proposed amendments were only just released on Thursday, which has not given the business community the opportunity to review the proposed changes and to provide comment. As an example, in my conversations with Ms. Joanne Russo yesterday of the BIA, they are only discussing the proposed changes at their board meeting tonight with the directors. They expect to have a comment on this issue after the meeting tonight. Regarding the specifics, I have a number of concerns pertaining to omissions and particularly clauses contained within the amendments. I'm concerned there are omissions with regard to special events such as the farmers market and the street sale, as well as developmental portable signs, as these situations have not been addressed in the bylaw. Neither of these groups pay business tax, yet would have free, unpermitted use of portable signs. This seems unfair to the local businesses. There has also been no differentiation between portable signs on public land versus private lands with regards to the size of signage or time allowances. Additionally, there are specific clauses that will prove to make portable signage difficult for businesses to benefit from them. Proposed section 5.16E speaks to the annual permit being required. In my view, there will be challenges with this, as businesses will not be keeping track of that annual permit and when it was put through, and they certainly won't be keeping track of their expiry date. If a permit is to be required, it would be more business friendly if it was a one-time permit for these signs. Proposed section 5.6F speaks to the hours in which the sign may be displayed. However, if the sign is to be weighted down and securely affixed to grade, as it is suggested in proposed section 5.16H, then the continual removal of the sign is impractical. And for many, and for those businesses run by people with some type of physical disability, it may be very difficult for them to do that. I would suggest that this is where the differentiation between public and private lands would be beneficial in making use more practical and enforcement easier. Proposed section 5.16J covers the size of the allowed signage, which severely limits the size of the signage to 0.6 meters square, meaning that the sign is practically ineffective to businesses that rely on road traffic to see the sign, as the proposed sign size will result in lettering too small to read at a glance as traffic passes quickly. The limit on the height will also prevent any creative variances for businesses in the downtown core, such as those that we should have displayed on the, is this on? Yeah. There it is, so such as that display there. In closing, I'd like to request that Council delay the passing of these amendments to allow businesses and business groups the opportunity to review and comment, as well as allow review of specific clauses to create a more comprehensive bylaw. Alternatively, should Council desire to pass the amendments tonight, I would request that the proposed section 5.16 subsection E and F be omitted. Should Council have any questions, I'd be happy to discuss them on these issues further and at their request. In that regard, I'd like to thank you for my presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Council, first if I can get a motion to receive and refer to bylaw number A. Bylaw A. Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions for Dr. Moore? Councillor Gardner.
Could you just repeat again which sections you thought should be eliminated?
Dr. Moore?
Yes. Section 5.16, subsection E and F.
And sorry, where the subsections belong to what?
I'm sorry, what was that? What?
The subsections belong to what?
I believe they belong to the existing sign bylaw.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much, Dr. Moore, for your presentation this evening. In those two sections that you're asking for reconsideration or removal, it is one of them considering the the size of the sign, the A-frame sign?
Yes, one pertains to the size, yes.
And from your perspective, it's just not significant enough?
If it was possible to take that to a 0.8, that would be helpful. As I look at Aurora and I look at how busy the traffic is, Aurora is different from many of the other communities, different from King City and different from Newmarket. We have our own flavor, and part of these signs in the promenade area and the historical area on Yonge Street and even on Wellington, the traffic's moving pretty fast. If the sign's going to be effective, it has to be somewhat of a size that can be read. So I recognize that Some of the communities have a 0.6 size, and I recognize some of the communities have larger. We have our own distinct busyness on Yonge Street, and hence we've spoken about signs that can be taller, maybe the same 0.8 squareness, but higher, so that they can be read by the traffic. It's difficult when cars are parked on the road and you have an A-frame there and there's parking there. No one driving through is really going to see. If they see the A-frame, they certainly won't be able to read it.
Okay. Thank you. One of my concerns on that, I thought about when I read the report, I wasn't sure what that size was, and I think I actually saw when I was going to speak to it when the item comes up later on, but I didn't realize the size was a bit smaller than some of the A-frames that we have had asked to be removed when they were out there illegally. So I'm not sure, how that's going to feel. But the other thing I have, my concern is, you mentioned earlier that it sounds like the BIA hasn't had an opportunity to share with their
No,
board.
they're meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm not just sure, again, if that bylaw, this proposal was out before. I just saw it last Thursday. It might have been circulated before, but I didn't see it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for coming out and speaking tonight and being specific on some of the areas that of concern. But most importantly, I had learned about the BIA having their meeting tonight, and I think it's really important that we do get some input from the BIA. It is a newly formed committee, and I do feel that maybe we should hold off and get some support on that from that particular group to lend to staff to work with. So let's hope when we do talk about the item that perhaps we can discuss that further.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you so
Seeing any
much.
other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call the question, Council. That carries. So, Council, we're going to move into the consent agenda. Before we do, I just wanted to welcome our new Director of Planning, Mr. David Waters, who comes to us from Brampton, and he served 28 years there. We're all excited to have you come here, and we're looking forward to your planning expertise. And just to kind of let Council know, I did give my one comment when we met on Monday, and we sat down, and I said to Mr. Waters, I said everything will be great as long as he continues to uphold our height restrictions within our town. So I think he was good with that so far. We'll see how it goes. But congratulations and welcome to the town of Aurora.
Thank you, Your Worship, and it's a really excellent opportunity. I'm very excited to be here, and I look forward to leading the town into the next decade from a planning perspective and providing council with the best advice possible.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. We're looking forward to it. All right, Council. We have the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions on those two items? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve C1 and C2. Moved by Councillor Kim, seconded by Councillor Gilliland to approve C1 and C2. I'll call the question. That carries. Standing committee reports. So, Council, does anyone want to pull anything from S1? And I will make a recommendation. S2 to S7 through to S7. We do have regular agenda items that deal with all the capital budget, the operating budget, water, wastewater, stormwater budgets and rates. So realistically, it's kind of a bit of a duplication. So I would just say that we approve those because we can still talk about the budget. We're just receiving those items, S2 through S7. And because we still have budget on the regular agenda, does everyone have an understanding of what I'm recommending? Okay, so is anyone want to pull anything from S1? Councillor Gardner, is there a question? Oh, Councillor Humphries first.
Oh, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull the R5.
R5, so S1, R5?
Yes. And my apologies, I running here. All my papers are mixed up here. The bylaw for the sign.
That would
Not
be
yet?
at the end.
That's later on?
That's
Okay.
when we get to the bylaws.
I can talk about that later?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. S1R3 for a
Yes.
question.
Do you want to just ask that question now?
I have others that
You have
I'd
a
like.
list of questions? Okay, we
No,
better.
I have one question which
If
I will
it's
ask,
just-
but I just want.
If
do
you
you
want,
want-
just ask it now.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at page 4 of S1. I've been asked for clarification on this for A and B. The wording that the increase in the need for services attributable to the anticipated development will be met subject to sufficient development charge revenues being generated and other town affordability criteria being met. So could you say exactly what that means, or are you, Mr. CEO?
Mr. Gardner, do you have that page? You're still looking for it? Councillor Gardner, can you mention the page number again?
Of course. I'm S1. This is the March 19th report, S1, page 4.
So the March 19th, 2019 report, item R3, page 4. Correct?
Right. I'm on S1 March 19th. It was the very first one in our package tonight.
Oh, it's in tonight's,
Well, that's the minutes.
it's the minutes.
But it's S1, right?
No, that would be the consent agenda that we just passed. No?
No, we didn't just pass it. I'm under Standing Committee Reports, S1 GC
Oh,
report.
that's one, not R3.
No?
If we can just let Mr. Gardner know what page he's supposed to be looking for. Because he won't be able to answer the question unless he knows which page.
Yes, thank you. Are we not going in order of this on the agenda? And our package?
That's fine. I thought you said R3. See, I thought you said S1 R3, page 4, that's why. We
No.
were all looking at the wrong reference. So you're,
Right.
yes, we're fine. So Jason, do you have that now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe so. Which number now?
Okay. So Councilor Gardner, can you ask?
So 4A and B are worded interestingly. Subject to sufficient development charge revenues being generated and other town affordability criteria. And B is the same kind of verbiage. That the increase, I'll just say it for the public, that the increase in the need for services attributable to anticipated development will be met. So new residents will get same increase in service level, subject to sufficient development charge revenues being generated and other town affordability criteria being met. Because I've had a resident from that general area be in touch with me and say, what exactly does that mean for our area? They're talking about the new residents. I mean, I don't know, Mr. Clerk, we'd be passing this tonight at council, right?
Mr. CO?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll take a stab at this. This is really a policy statement that reaffirms why council is actually agreeing to charge development charges in the first place. And so by approving the recommendation as stated, council is confirming that basically those items that have been listed as being required as a result of growth, we can meet those needs subject to the development charges that we've asked for being generated over time. And the second part, again, more of a policy piece, that future excess capacity identified in the study shall be paid for by development charges or other similar charges. So where there is extra capacity that will be available for growth, that is also being covered by the development charges. So it's just sort of an acknowledgement that council is collecting those development charges for the costs of development, and where those development charges are covering excessive capacity, it's still for future growth.
Thank you. So the question from the resident is, what happens if we don't have sufficient development charges?
Mr. Seale?
To you, Mr. Chair. Well, in theory, if we didn't list the items that we felt were going to be needed by the community to accommodate the growth, we would not have enough money through development charges to pay for it. So the option would be to either not go ahead with those improvements or increase facilities, or to fund them from the levy, basically, or the other capital reserves.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll pass that on if they're not listening. Thank you.
And that was the question that you had for that one?
That was the question.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to pull?
Yes, and I understand your point, Mr. Mayor, but I do have some specific questions, and it would be easier for me to just ask them. So I would ask that you pull, that I would like to pull we're going to, the development charges bylaw approval. I'd like to pull that.
R3.
R3, that's
Yes.
where you were going before. But also in the other S reports, S2, 3, and 7, please. I
So-
just have some questions on that.
And I'm curious, if you're going to ask those questions in there, then you're not going to ask the
No, I
questions
won't
in
ask them again.
R1, 2, and 3?
I won't ask them again.
Okay. I'll hold you to that. So which one's S2?
S2, 3, and 7.
3 and 7. Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just quickly to our CEO, Mr. Nadarozny, that paragraph that Councillor Gardner was asking about with regards to the increased needs for services attributable to the anticipated development, could that be summed up as that debate we always have, that growth needs to pay for growth, even though it doesn't really, but that's the policy or the hope?
Mr.
To you,
Seale?
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. That's the essence of the policy.
And
Thank
it
you.
doesn't.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Yeah, no, growth does not pay for growth. Anyone else want to pull anything? See none? Okay, so if I can get a motion to approve A1, R1, R2, R6, R7, and then S4, S5, S6. Want to do it as a separate one? That's fine. Okay, so first motion is to approve S1/A1, R1, R2, R6, and R7. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Humphreys. Call the question. That carries. Now if I can get a motion to approve S4, S5, and S6. Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Thompson. Call the question. Councillor Gardner, thank you. That carries. We'll move to the regular agenda, and we will start with, we'll start with R3, Development Charges Bylaw Approval. Councillor Gardner, do you want to put something on the floor?
Yes, I'll move that.
Move as is. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner.
I'm fine with it.
And you pulled it? You just wanted to vote?
No, hold on. I'm trying to find it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
See, you've made me nervous.
Who made you nervous?
You made me nervous.
I made you nervous.
Actually, I'm fine with it now that
With that
I've
explanation?
had an answer, yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this one? Call the question. Councilor Gardner? Thank you. That carries. R5, stop control removal. Councilor Humphreys? Want to put something on the floor?
I'd like to put on the floor,
Is it something contrary?
it is contrary.
So should we ask someone to see if someone wants to put what's recommended on the floor, Mr. Clerk, or? Okay. Actually, Councilor Humphreys, what are you looking
What
for?
I'd like to do is, I'd like to refer back to staff. In fact, what I'd like, if possible, is to keep the stop sign, but add some of the items that were recommended as safety measures in this report. I don't know if I could speak to it for a moment, but the sign's been there since early 80s,
If you want to
70s.
refer it back to staff, if
Yeah.
you want to put that as an amendment,
Sure.
we can put it on the floor and then you can speak to it.
Okay, perfect, yeah, just refer,
Did
and
you
then
want to refer it back to staff?
if that's possible, just for one cycle, I'd like a seconder if that's, anyone would consider.
Someone want a second referring this back to staff? Councilor Gardner? Okay, go ahead, speak.
Thank you. Just really quickly, I received a few calls, not necessarily just from the delegate, had a couple further calls, and again, like I said earlier, the stop sign's been here for a very, very long time. There were complaints, obviously, that's why we're here, but obviously there's complaints now, or concerns not to remove the stop sign that's been there since either late 60s or early 70s. I think this is a very unusual road, and I think what I'd like to see is, and I know staff's done a great job, I'm not at all considering that an issue. I'm just listening to the residents' concerns and some of the concerns from individuals that have been here for a while. I'd like to see staff go back and what can we do by leaving the stop sign there and making that bit of road safer by including the stop sign and perhaps doing additional measures of safety for pedestrians with that false sense of security. I think that was the main concern. But you can hear from the residents that it's already a problem with speed there, perhaps reducing speed, maybe another look at this again. Again, I'd like to see the stop sign remain in terms of it's been here so long and the road hasn't changed. So for me, I'd really appreciate if we could take another look at this, perhaps consider a stop sign and what we would do to make it safe for pedestrians.
Thank you, Councilor Humphreys. Any other comments or questions on this one? I just make a recommendation that you should refer it back for at least 2 cycles. Just due to the fact that one cycle's pretty much already come to us because the next GC is already pretty much out. So 2 cycles would work better, I think. That's fine. Okay. Any other comments or questions on this one? No? Call the question. That carries. S2, Budget Committee report in regards to February 2nd, 2019. Councilor Gardner. Want to move to receive that?
Yes, please.
Second. Councilor Humphreys. Councilor Gardner.
So I may have lied to you, Mr. Mayor. I may have to raise this again, but what happens with the conditional items?
Mr. CO.
Through you, Mr. Chair, those items that council approved conditionally, what that means is that the budget will be allocated in the capital budget, but no further action will be taken in terms of advancing that option until another report comes back to council and we get what amounts to a green light to go ahead.
Councilor Gardner.
So just to be clear, the money is going to be in the budget. It will be part of the tax levy.
Mr. Seow?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, these are capital items that come from the appropriate
Right.
reserves.
Correct,
Councillor
quite
Gardner?
right. Thank you very much.
Good. So that one's, okay. Any other comments or questions on this one? Council? Seeing none, I call the question. That carries. Next, we have S3, Budget Committee Meeting Report, February 19, 2019. Councillor Gardner, you want to move as is?
Thank
receive?
you. Thank you.
Councillor Humphrey, second. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. Can you just, I don't quite remember where we are with the Hillary House parking lot.
Who would like to answer that? Where are
The
we at
Hillary
with the
House.
Hillary House parking lot? It's conditional. Mr. Seal?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that was conditional on getting more information from Hillary House and making sure that they got the grants to do the other renovations that they need prior to this coming back to council for final approval.
Thank you.
Councillor
So this will just sit around until the Historical Society comes back to us with their information?
Pretty much. And until they come back, I think some of us wanted to see, make sure that there was funding for that walkway.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Gardner, that's it?
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Oh, Councillor Thompson.
Can I just get confirmation that on page 3 of 5 that project 34525, the Young Street parking plan, is not being approved? There was some question about it the last time around, so I just want to be definitive on this one.
Mr. CAO?
Sorry, what number was that? No, yes, that is true.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'll call a vote. That carries. S7, Budget Committee Meeting Report of March 18, 2019. Councillor Gardner, you want to move to receive?
Sure.
Second, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner.
So, Mr. Mayor, as I didn't vote for the whole of the Library Square project until we know what we're doing with the fiscal strategy, I also won't be able to vote for the $240,000 that's going to be put on the budget this year. So I would like that to be called as a separate vote. I don't know if it's called now or further along in the process.
Mr. CEO, I believe that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that will be part of R3. You could call that separately in R3. Is it that detailed in R3? Could we pull it as a separate item?
Could we just refer this to R3?
Yeah, it might need an amendment, but we'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out as
Okay.
we get there. If that's your wishes, Councillor Gardner,
Thank you.
we'll figure out how we can get you to vote on that separately.
Thank you.
Is that all?
That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on this one? Okay, call the question. Just receiving for information. That carries. So we will move into our regular agenda, R1. 2019 water, wastewater, stormwater budgets and rates. Someone want to move this? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on this item? Seeing none. Councillor Gardner.
If you'll just give me a moment, Mr. Mayor. On page 5, could I have some clarification? We're approving the stormwater rates, we have our chart, we're approving the stormwater rates. I don't believe they're full cost recovery, or maybe they are.
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, they're definitely full cost recovery.
They're full cost recovery.
Correct, yes. It's recovering the full cost of the capital repair and replacement as well as the operating costs.
Thank you.
Councillor Gardner?
And we're doing a study on these rates as well. And is it possible that those rates are going to change?
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the study that's ongoing right now relates to the stormwater charges specifically, and any
Yes.
changes would become effective in 2020.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. So these rates will hold for 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Any other comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, call the question. That carries unanimously. R2, 2019 Final Capital Budget Report. Someone would like to move this? Councillor Thompson, second, Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Oh. Councillor Gardner.
Some questions tonight. So I'm on page 8. Under number 3, the town will implement continuous improvement protocols, including number 1, complete and accurate asset data. Condition assessment protocols is number 2. Number 3 is risk and criticality models. So reading the state of maturity report for Aurora, we don't have 1, 2, or 3 in place. So I would like to know how it's going to be done, what the process is, how long it's going to take, what it's going to cost. Like, what is our plan to be able to say that we've done 1, 2, and 3?
Mr. Gardner? Through you, Mr. Chair, these are best practices that we're striving to meet. We haven't defined how we're going to get there and how fast we're going to get there at the moment, but we'll certainly address that as part of our capital asset management steering committee, which we have. So at this moment, I can't tell you how long it's going to take us to get there, but that's certainly the goal. That policy forms the guidelines that we're striving for.
Thank you. That's a fair answer. So we have a steering committee. Will there discussion and I guess recommendations be coming back to council as to how we could achieve this? Or perhaps through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we would bring these back, but not necessarily as a complete
Right.
package for either that whole set or any one particular area. So as an example, under life cycle management, you'll recall that Mr. Downey wants to do a life cycle management on the whole fleet. So that would be just one component of our life cycle management that would come in its own report. So we expect over time to complete all of these, but they'll come in they won't all come as a complete life cycle management for the whole organization. They'll come as we develop them. And I think Mr. Gardner wants to add something.
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I could just add to that, more than likely you'll see it through subsequent asset management plan updates. The lion's share of this will be captured as part of our asset management plan and how we make our asset decisions, which are documented in that plan.
Thank you. And we are talking about infrastructure assets. I don't think that's fleet. And the reason I'm speaking to council about this is because we are going to be having a serious test of our infrastructure, our stormwater infrastructure, and I would like to know that we will be prepared And if you haven't read the State of Maturity report for Aurora, I would suggest that you do that, because we've done a good job, but we also have a lot more to do to ensure that the town is taken care of. So I'm raising that, and I'll keep that so that I can continue to speak to you about it. On page 10, 10.1, again, it's a very interesting situation. I'm not sure, because I heard this at Lake Simcoe, I'm not sure that everybody quite gets this. But I'm talking about the town's water, and in particular drinking water quality. The province wanted to pass it down to the municipalities. They have taken a one-year hiatus on this, but I think it's something, Mr. CEO, perhaps you or other staff need to really keep track of, because if they pass it down, it's not only the safety implication, but we're in budget. There's a lot of cost implications. So, thank you.
That's all, Councillor?
I've got page 13.
Okay.
.0. I'd just like to point out that in the vision of the strat plan and the official plan, and these are two very important plans to us. It does address a broad mix of building and housing types and ensuring accessibility to all residents. And it talks about green building technologies and energy efficient methodologies. And I've spoken to Ms. Michael about this. One of the things is green infrastructure assets. And I believe they'll be incorporated into our projects as they come up. But there may need to be some money in the budget. I don't think this is the right time for me to address this, but some money in the budget, apart from our new initiatives, to use green infrastructure to protect the community from flooding. Mr. Mayor, I'd appreciate if you take this one under your belt, because it will really help the residents when we get into flood situations to have this green infrastructure.
I'll do what I can. I can let you know, Councillor, that today, actually, the federal government announced $150 million to Toronto and also York, parts of York region, to help with disaster mitigation in regards to especially flood risk, and as well as making sure that our residents' safety is taken care of when it comes to those flood risks and safe drinking water.
Thank you. Glad to hear that about the safe drinking water. With respect to the flood, this is a community responsibility. So there may be money, or there may be initiatives from other governments, but this is something we need to look at, because otherwise we're going to have a lot of very angry and unhappy residents. Thank you.
Definitely. You're at time right now for your first time.
Okay.
Does anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Guillorin.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment that Ms. Mahale had also kind of said that she was working on a plan towards 250-year storm, and that we did talk, I think, last meeting with DC Charges, and if we wanted to do a service level change and that document, that we do have that opportunity to collect more on that. So I think Ms. Mahale is really on track with at least trying to improve that looking forward. So if that's of any comfort, I feel like I wish she was here to speak to that, but I think that we've kind of covered our bases in that.
Thank you, Councillor Guillorin. Anyone else have a comment or question for first time? Councillor Gardner, did you want to go second time?
And just to respond to Councillor Guillorin, Ms. Mahale is wonderful, but it's also a council responsibility. that we think about this and perhaps form initiatives that are not part of the infrastructure projects. And I know you're interested, so I thank you. Page 4, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Page 14. The Corporate Environmental Action Plan. The Corporate Environmental Action Plan, I'll just wait a moment. The Corporate Environmental Action Plan was updated in 2018, but there is no staff responsibility assigned. And I did raise it at the table when I was sitting where Councillor Humphreys is sitting, and Mr. Munoz said he was going to look into it. But you know, if you have an initiative and you don't have anybody being responsible for following it through, well, I don't have to finish that. So I'd like to have a look at it again, perhaps with our new planning director, and see which staff would be appropriate.
I do believe we're looking at hiring that position. Mr. Waters, want to add to that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that position has been posted for recruitment, so we're in the process now.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Very good news, thank you. On page 17, 6.0. Number 5, this is really important to me. I assume important to everybody around the table. There's a section on roles and responsibilities under the town's asset management program. And one of them is public. Number 5 at the bottom of the page is public. It says we need to engage the public on service level expectations. And also important is how difficult that this is, because you've got cost and risk, and so that's an education piece, because the public really, I don't believe, understands that. And also it's talking about engaging in discussions about strategic priorities and target service levels for the next 10 years. So I would like to know, I would like to give this to you, Mr. CAO. How are we going to form this strategy to engage the public? Maybe you'll give it to Ms. Mackenzie Smith, but I mean, you just can't say something like we're going to engage the public. We need a strategy.
Mr. CEO, first crack.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this really speaks to our ongoing efforts, and sometimes they're based around a single initiative, and other times they're based around our more broadly based mechanisms for feedback from council. So public open houses would be a forum, Play Speak would be a forum, specialized section of Play Speak for a specific issue. So all of these things would be consistent with enabling the public to fulfill that role and responsibility.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I'm fine with that, but we don't, first of all, we don't get that many people to our open houses, and we don't get that many people on Play Speak. We get a lot of the same people over and over. And my understanding also, and maybe Councillor Humphreys, was that Play Speak was supposed to be a traffic initiative. We don't have a traffic safety advisory committee, and Play Speak is kind of instead of that. So Mr. CO is ready to answer.
Mr. CO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the traffic issue was just the first thing that we used to launch Play Speak, but Play Speak has been used for other items and will continue to be used for getting input from the public on a dynamic basis. The examples I gave were not the only things that we use. So for specific issues, when we've had staff out, for example, at the GO station, actually one-on-one with individuals, getting their input on issues that are coming before council or issues of concern to the public. So we've done the same thing at things like the farmers market and other events that we attend. So there's as I say, there's a whole series of ways that we solicit that input from the public.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I do think it needs to be, if this is in our plan, it does need to be a targeted strategy. And certainly we're not going to do it today. It's something that needs to be in the works. I believe Ms. Mackenzie Smith would like to say something. Oh, no? Okay.
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a communications and community engagement policy that came before council and received approval that outlines our plans and priorities with regards to community engagement. Again, it is something that is ongoing. And I know during that presentation, one of the things that I cautioned was I think we sometimes look at lack of community engagement as a negative, when in fact I think that in the changing the perspective of that can sometimes be, if somebody's passionate about an issue or upset about something, they make the time to come to council. They make the time to log on to PlaySpeak and have their voice heard. If somebody is kind of indifferent or is happy with the way things are going, then they don't engage, and that's actually okay too. But it is also why we've, amped up our efforts to go out into the community and solicit feedback. And when we have done that, we've generally found that, most people are content with that direction. And we take that information and provide that back to council through the appropriate forums as well.
Thank you.
Gardner?
And I think you're doing a great job. Appreciate it. I just don't want something in a policy and then we just don't read it, or we read it and just set it aside. On page 18, number 8, maybe, I'm not sure who would explain this, perhaps you, Mr. CEO. The first point, investment decisions respecting infrastructure should be made on the basis of information that is either publicly available or is made available to the public. Are we getting this information out to the public when we make investment decisions regarding infrastructure? And you could come back at another meeting to say what this means, but it just...
Mr. CEO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe this speaks to the fact that unless there's some particular sensitivity about the information, that decisions that are made about investing in infrastructure should be public. Is the essence of it. There could be, I think it's allowing for the possibility that there could be some strategic or
Right.
something of some liability issue or so on, where you maybe don't bring all the information public, and I think it's just allowing for that possibility as opposing to have to disclose absolutely everything.
Councillor, you have 4 seconds.
Well, it says publicly available or made available to the public. So how are we going to make it available to the public?
Oh, Mr. CEO, if you can answer that, and then your time's up, Councillor.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, that would be the reporting process, the approval process to get capital projects approved. That would be where that information is made public. So we can't advance those projects without council approval.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, just have one more question, if you would permit.
You're past your time. I gave you extra on the first time as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this one? Call the vote. That carries unanimously. R3, 2019 operating budget, final approval. Mr. Clerk is just going to add something for us here. Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just recognizing Councillor Gartner's preference to vote separately on the Library Square operating, would suggest that what's put on the floor is a slight amendment from the motion that's in your agendas tonight. Just with the recommendation number 2 after attachment 1, that the 2019 operating budget summarized in attachment 1, with the exception of the operating plan for Library Square, and then continued to be approved, and then a subsequent motion after this one to approve the operating plan of Library Square.
Are we going to get that on the screen, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, absolutely.
If we can just get it on the screen, because I don't want to have to ask someone to move something that they're not 100% sure what they're moving.
For sure.
She wants that separate, so we're going to separate it. I'll ask Mr. Clerk. Councillor Gallo, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Could we vote on these separately?
All
Each-
clauses, yeah?
Yeah.
If that's what you wish.
I'd
yeah.
prefer that.
Okay.
If we could. Thanks.
Okay, so as Councillor Thompson mentioned, we have a number 7 on there, which speaks to the Library Square funding. As you can see right there, number 7, that the Library Square operating plan in the amount of $240 be approved. So, Councillor Gardner, that will satisfy for you to be able to vote on that one separately, and we will call. We will call each one separately, as per Councillor Gallo's request. Okay. Councillor Gallo, did you want to add to that?
No.
No? Oh, okay, your name popped back
Oh,
up
no.
again. Sorry, I just looked at the screen. I thought you wanted to speak again. Okay, so I need someone to move and second this. Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson, second. Comments or questions to this before I call the vote on each individual item or each individual clause? All right. Oh, Councillor Thompson.
Just quickly, I'd like to show my appreciation to both staff and all members of council for the time and effort put into both the development of the budget as well as the discussion to help get us to this point this evening. I think a lot of work's gone into it. I know there were some concerns expressed through the process about ways to improve, and I look forward to having that conversation at FAC on an ongoing basis, but certainly do want to recognize the work and the efforts that went into this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Well said. Councillor Gallo.
I'm going to be voting against the majority of this, just as a kind of a bookmark in terms of expressing my desire for, as I've expressed before, more information and to satisfy myself and my comfort level in moving forward. And I look forward to next year's budget and the FAC and the voluminous information that I'm sure will be at that level.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Well said as well. I'll just add that I'm looking forward to working with yourself and Councillor Thompson at FAC. I think that we're going to make some great strides in improving our policies and our procedures, and I'm quite excited about. As much as people can be excited about a budget, I'm going to be quite excited about our next year's budget and moving forward. So, yeah, I'm not seeing anything else on this one. So we'll call each clause individually. Councillor Gardner.
Okay, there is an added item from Mr. Downey. There's no
the mower.
The turtles?
Oh, that's separate. That's a separate.
I know
agenda
it is, but there's no money in here.
There's no budget implications. That's why.
Well, it depends what we approve, what measures we approve. A silt fence is one thing, but there's other measures. Sandra wants to. Okay, so what would happen if we want measures that are more than $1,000 worth of money, Mr. Seal?
Mr. Seal.
To you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, I would recommend that we just deal with item R5 separately, and if it comes about that there's a capital decision that council wants to make beyond what's already been, we would bring up a way to deal with that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Councillor Humphries, does that satisfy you, or do you have a separate question? Do you want to add to the operating budget conversation, or do you want to add to which? Can I wait for R5? Yeah, well, if it can, then why don't we get the operating budget out of the way, and then we can deal with it at R5. So you answered your own question. Thank you very much. No, that's okay.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
All right, so I'll be calling each clause separately. So we'll start with 1, which is to receive. Correct, Mr. Clerk? So I'll call a vote. Oh, no, we moved, do we have to, we don't have to move and second each one individually, do we? No, we're just calling the vote separately. Yeah. I'll call a vote. This is just to receive. That carries unanimously. Second clause. Call the vote. That carries 6-1. Number 3. I have it on the screen, so I'll call it. I have it on our voting. Yeah, it's on the tablet.
I thought,
Yeah, just give it a sec, everyone. There it is. So I'll call a vote. Councillor Gillen, thank you. That carries 6-1. Number 4. Call the vote. That carries 6-1. Number 5. Call the vote. That carries 6-1. Number 6. Call the vote. That carries unanimously. Number 7. Oh, you had it there. There we are. Number 7. Call the vote. That carries 6-1. Okay, Council, we're going to move to R4. Approval of capital project number 71-103 and number 34-420 wide area mower. Someone like to move this? Council, someone like to move this? Councillor Humphreys, second. Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions on this one? Councillor Gallo.
Just wondering if this is our only option, considering the increase in price. Do we have any other options that we can move forward, and also the timing of both when we got the quote and when we were notified of the increase? Through you too, I guess, Mr. Downey.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, first question with regards to options. There is no viable option at this point. There's certain different ways of cutting grass. However, in order for us to maintain our service level, we would either have to buy this equipment or some other type of equipment, and mainly that would be a tractor and a gang mower along with a trailer and a truck in order to pull that trailer. So it's additional equipment that would be much beyond what we would be able to achieve with this one piece of equipment, since it can also be driven on the road. So we have in the past used different equipment, but when we obtained the wide area mower, the versatility of that piece of equipment certainly maximized the effort in cutting many of our large grass areas, and so we are recommending that we stay with that piece of equipment and in fact expand to 2 of those units. With regards to costs, in preparation of the budget, we received a cost last year, so we put that cost into the budget. We were then notified in February that there was going to be an increase as a result of tariffs being imposed, and that increase was significant. It moved the equipment from approximately $130,000 to $170,000, and that is completely attributed to tariffs being placed on the equipment. We made council aware of that once that information was made available to us.
Councillor Gallo?
Okay. Just so frustrating to see, but I'm not sure we have a choice, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. I think we all share that frustration about the price jumping up. Councillor Humphreys.
Councillor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I thought Councillor Gilliland wasn't before me. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to state that although it's difficult to see such a large amount, for me, I'm really concerned with the service levels. I want to make sure that they're upkept and exceeded. Grass, unfortunately, has been growing way more, sort of, how do I put it, without the pesticides we used to have. We need staff to keep on top of this as much as possible. So although it's a large capital investment, it truly is. It's something that we need to do, and I'm looking forward to having our parks and our roadways kept neat and beautiful, and have a town that we can be very proud of. It's very important for me. So I appreciate the concerns, but we have to do them.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, isn't there anyone in Canada that makes a product that would be comparable to this?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this will be a public tendered product, so we will be providing the specifications. However, this is the equipment that we have right now, and so any equipment that we have would be comparable to this, there doesn't appear to be another manufacturer within the market that would be able to address the same specifications. The answer to your question is there are other pieces of equipment. However, we don't believe that they're going to be as effective as this particular piece of equipment, but we're allowing the public tender to take place, and if we find that there's a supplier out there that can provide comparable equipment at a lower price, then we'll certainly be looking at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the clarity on the tariffs. It really is a shame that we have to pay for that. In your opinion, moving forward, since we're going to be faced with this, with other items that we may need to purchase, would you feel that maybe it would be in our best interest to maybe look at purchasing something that might have been a model from last year?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. But we are going to do 2 steps, first of all. First one is you are going to be seeing a report fairly soon with regards to our request to engage a consultant to deal with fleet. And part of their mandate or requirement within that study will be to evaluate the purchase of equipment, when we purchase it, when we release that equipment, what type of equipment we purchase, that type of thing. I would also like to look at the option of purchasing other than new, and that would mean that there would need to be an amendment to the procurement bylaw with regards to that. There is some equipment that we believe has limited hours to it, and we don't need to go to the market to buy brand new, but we could use. The other thing we're doing is we're reaching out to our N6 partners for shared opportunities. So if there's a piece of equipment that they have that we may require on a limited basis, we could use their equipment or rent their equipment from them. So we are looking at other options with regards to how we put our fleet together. But as I said, I'm going to be asking our consultant to look at all of those options and come back with recommendations on how they would see the best way they see in proceeding.
Councillor Gilliland?
Perfect. I look forward to the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Mr. Downey. Given the extra 45 acres that we've assumed in the 2C lands, and I know you mentioned in the report that this mower can handle the extra 45 acres. This new mower is not necessarily faster or wider than the previous one. Would it make sense that the current mower is still operational, or maybe operational with a few fixes? Is it would it increase our service levels for at least the next season? To would it be worth our while to keep it on for this next season if it only requires a couple thousand to fix it?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are concerned about the dependability of that piece of equipment, and so because its unique nature, and we're putting a lot of stock in making sure that that is up and operational. We plan on keeping that piece of equipment, once we get the new mowers, we may very well continue to use it in order to continue to maintain our service levels. However, it is our thought that we would be looking at selling that piece of equipment, and we want to sell it at a prime time when people actually want it. So that would be a discussion that we would have with the operations staff and procurement as far as the disposal of that piece of equipment.
Councillor Kim?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Any other comments or questions on this one? I just have one question. Who's responsible for the tariffs? Trudeau or Trump?
Whichever name starts with a T.
Well, oh, that's a good answer. All right, with that, I will call the vote. That carries. R5, Wildlife Crossing on Henderson Drive. Councillor Humphreys, you'd like to move this? Thank you. Second, Councillor Gardner. Comments, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I really want to thank staff very much for bringing this forward. I really appreciate it. I know it wasn't something that was 100% in their, expertise, but I really appreciate staff. I had, speaking with and working with Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. I believe Councillor Gardner helped with that as well from a contact perspective, and really want to thank you very much. I believe the mitigation efforts will really help for this season, and what I'm really happy to hear, it looks like the road will be reconstructed. This is what I wanted to add earlier in 2020, and these costs will be included in capital budget recommendations for next year. I think that's what I wanted to mention. But through Mr. Mayor, if I can ask Mr. Downey, that just wanted to ask how your staff feel about moving forward and creating these this barrier to help with the crossings of our
Mr. Downey?
reptiles.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, with regards to moving forward, as I said, taking some steps I think is a good idea. We aren't 100% confident that this is going to be the answer, but we're happy to take whatever steps we possibly can, and we try to do this as quickly and as low cost as we can. Certainly in conversations I had with Conservation Authority as well as staff from the Development Engineering, that assisted in finding out what window we would have in order to deal with other measures, because putting up the silt fence isn't going to be your long-term solution. Really, there should be an echo passage under the road. This creates some unique issues that with regards to this area, because there's some gabion walls that we have to deal with. And so that would be an engineering design issue. And in talking to Anka, she plans on putting some additional costs into that budget in order to deal with those additional design considerations. And there will be, of course, additional costs associated with that work on Henderson as a result of that. And right now it's anticipated to go at 2020, but that will be upon council's approval.
Councillor? Oh, your mic's off. There you go.
Great, thank you. I just want to say thank you again, through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Downey, and your team for putting this together for us. And although, there's no 100% guarantees, it's a good effort to help mitigate some of the things we've seen in past years, and I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the residents will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very small move. I mean, we were talking about putting maybe $10,000 in the budget, which wouldn't even show, it'd just be a blip. Mr. Downey, the silt fencing, is that going to stay, is that strong enough to stay up through the whole nesting season?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mayor. So it's the fencing that the Conservation Authority is recommending.
Okay.
So we do dig a trench and we bury the bottom of that to prevent any turtles from going under the fence. It certainly is something that is going to be maintained. It's the type of fencing we use in construction, and that is maintained through the entire construction period. So I'm not overly concerned about it not being able to withstand or stand up for an extended period of time. My concern with this is I don't want people thinking this is the answer. We still may have turtles crossing the road, so we are taking whatever measures we can. I think that this will reduce it considerably. It may not eliminate it, but I think the installation of the silt fence the silt fence is a great start.
Councillor Gardner?
I think it's a start. There were other suggestions that I would ask you to also include in the budget, but I need Councillor Humphreys. Large flashing sign to be erected at either end of the migratory corridor. You're having too much fun, guys. No,
Mr. Waters?
I was just suggesting to my colleague that we had a similar situation on Heart Lake Road in Brampton, which is going next to the conservation area, through Mr. Chairman, and similar issue with wildlife crossing the street, and these were frogs in addition to turtles. And we had instituted some signage to warn drivers about that, and also to reduce the speed, but I'm not sure what the speed is on Henderson. So those were a couple measures. And we were doing an EA as well for the road and determining what kind of measures we could implement as part of the EA in terms of the crossings as well.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. And I think the suggestion is large flashing sign. And that's something that could be used again and again, and probably should be used again and again during nesting season. And it's not only on Henderson, it's also on St. John's. We've had residents quite concerned about that on St. John's as well. The other thing is, and also reduce speed limit during migration season. I mean, it's a sign. We can put up some signs and hope that the residents will obey, but it's just a sign. It can't cost that much. And the other, one of the other things was nesting structures made of sand and gravel on the side of Salamander Pond. I don't know how much that would cost. I know that you had these, I think Councillor Humphreys sent these to you. there, and there is a problem in these areas, and I know because I have dogs from time to time, and there's no place for the dogs to be off leash. It's really frustrating. So I can understand that people would like to take their dogs off leash here, but I think that also signage asking people, recommending that dogs are kept on leash and are told why. I think I'm actually speaking to council because this would require council's approval for funding. Artificial nest structures. It is true that at the end of the day, if we can, the best way would be to fix it through road reconstruction. But I think we all know because we've received emails, and some of us know more because we've had a lot of discussions with the residents. This causes a lot of concern, a lot of anxiety for the residents. It's a very difficult situation, and I think that we should put an amount of money into the budget. As Mr. CEO said, we're not really going to even notice it. And if we spend less money, we spend less money. But I would like to make a motion that we put $7,000 into the budget for signs, 2 signs here, 2 signs on St. John's Side Road. That's what was asked last year, Mr. Downey, by the resident who was in communication with you. Well, he didn't ask for flashing signs, but he asked for substantial signs. And to, get some nests there, and also to have the signage about the dogs on leash. So if council would...
I just want to ask Mr. Downey, do we not already have signage of this type?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we put signage up last year, if you recall, I think we need to do different signage. I think it needs to be a little bit clearer. With regards to signage on St. John, however, that will take regional approval because that's a regional road. So we can communicate with the region. Henderson's easy, it's our road, we can do what we choose, but we would need permission from the region to put signage up on that right away.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Is that something that could be done quickly?
Mr. Downey?
Oh, I see it's loaded question.
Quickly in the region don't necessarily go together sometimes. So I will certainly reach out to the region and see if we can't get some approvals. I can't imagine it being an issue, but as they say, it would take their approvals. So we can reach out to them. We can produce the signs. That's not an issue. And we can put 2 on Henderson and 2 on St. John.
Can they be flashing? We need flashing signs.
So now when you get into flashing, now you're getting into hydro or solar panels or something along those lines, and now we're into a much higher expense. So I am concerned if you say the word flashing, because I've now got a totally different infrastructure I have to look at.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Downey. I know you're busy, but could you look at it, please? Could you look at the cost, or I'll be glad to do that if you give me some references to do that.
I saw a nod, yes, that he'll look.
Yeah, I know Mr. Downey has absolutely nothing to do.
Councillor Gardner, you're reaching that magical 5-minute mark again.
Yes. Can we also investigate the artificial nesting structures, please?
Do you want to make an amendment?
Yes, please.
So I'll ask for that amendment right now, because right now you're at your 5 minutes. So
perhaps Councillor Humphreys could continue then. Well, I'm at my... Oh, I get another turn later?
Yes, you'll get a second turn. Councillor Gilliland.
Wasn't sure how this is going to go. I just really wanted to say thank you so much for putting this forward in a timely manner, because the nesting and all that's starting to, I guess, happen now in March to May, and forward. So really my comment was thank you. I think Councillor Gartner had kind of said a lot of the things, and I want to thank Councillor Gartner and Councillor Humphreys for doing a lot of work on this as well. And I see some people in the audience who's been pretty involved in protecting the turtles as well, and I'm glad that we're at this point, and I'm happy to support your motion moving forward, Wendy, if that's where we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Kim.
I too also wanted to say thank you to Councillor Gardner, and later on last budget meeting we had Councillor Humphreys forward some of the suggestions from residents and the LSRC. I know the biggest hiccup was the larger funding amount and the fact that there was no certainty that those measures would work given the funding that was suggested. But in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, we have some at least some temporary suggestions, and so I was looking back, I was pleasantly happy of the decisions we made, and so I want to thank you both for taking the cause of the residents and for everyone. But given that you want to put an amendment in and you're putting in more costs, and I suspect that the conversation might be going back to what we had, but thank you both.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Humphreys, second time.
Yeah, thank you. Just so you, Mr. Mayor, don't we have a town-owned mobile sign, or one of those flashing signs that we use for specific? Do we have one? I thought we did through Mr. Mayor.
We do have mobile signs, but I don't know if it could be used for this purpose. But Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do have those signs. However, the nesting season is from mid-May to July. So if council wants us to exclusively use the signs for this nesting area, they won't be available for other purposes. So there would be additional rentals for signs for other purposes, such as special events or any other events going on in town. So they are not normally used for something such as this. So I wouldn't recommend that we use them. If you're looking for signs in this particular area, we can print them. But if you're looking for lit signs, then that would be the purchase of additional road signs, so that the portable signs could be used for the purpose they were intended.
Right. No, thank you. I understood that. That's fine. I know that we use those for everything. Yeah, I guess if there's just something a little bit different, a little bit more clear, so that the residents or anyone driving along that area will see them, notice them, and take extra care. Because if they did that, then we can avoid a lot of the concerns that were sort of the tragedies sort of happened last spring. But moving forward, again, having this as one mitigating step, if there's others that we can attempt, there are some of the suggestions that Councillor Gartner mentioned that are low cost to do. I think that'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gallo, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to be as practical as possible, and if we are going to throw some money at this, flashing lights or whatever it is there value in terms of timing for this season, even if we did put some money towards something significant other than signs? I suspect within the town's budget, I don't think we need to add anything for additional 2 signs there and additional 2 on St. John's Side Road. But if we are doing something with flashing lights and all that, I suspect 4, 5, 6 weeks is probably not enough time to hit this season. But I'm not sure, and maybe Mr. Downey, in terms of timing, let's say we were to put some money towards this, would it be done for this season?
Mr. Downey?
With regards to the signs, the information that we provided to you, in fact, on page 10 of 16 of the report, it identifies the turtles' nesting season as from mid-May to July. So assuming that we're at the beginning of April, 6 weeks from now would be the middle of May. So that timing may work. as they say, we can do some investigation on flashing light signs, but certainly signs are not an issue. It's the additional component of making sure there's flashing lights that are causing me some concern.
Councillor Gallo?
I'm not sure if that helps me. I'm just trying to find out if we put money into it and we decide to put flashing lights, do we have enough time to be successful to implement it prior to, well, to be effective for this next season?
Mr. Downey?
If the flashing light signs can't go up by mid-May, it's going to be too late. So my answer to you is I'll look at finding out what we can do, but if the installation of those flashing light signs is later than mid-May, my recommendation is not do it.
And I would agree. I just don't know if that is, and I guess we don't know at this point whether we have enough time to be able to implement that type of thing. So I'm happy with at least the direction we're heading for the time being.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gartner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm going to look into the audience for the answer to this. It seems to me that we were hearing about injured turtles all through the summer. Is that a yes? So, you know, I would like to have them at the beginning of the season, but it may be it's not okay, but it may be okay to get them a couple weeks late if that's, you know, if that's the how it turns out. Signs don't work. Just regular signs don't work. People don't pay attention to them. Could we use those? Are we allowed to use under the Traffic Highway Act those, you know, those warning, the colors that they have in the warning signs? The yellow, is it yellow and black? I think that's whatever they use for hazard or warning. It's not just a white sign with red lettering. It's. Do you want me to look into that?
I was going to ask Mr. Downey, but my recollection of driving along Henderson or even St. John's is that the signs that they put up for the turtles at the time are yellow and with black.
So it would be the same as what they use. Thank you very much. So even if it's a couple weeks late with the flashing signs, let's try for that, please. Would you be able to get back to us in a couple weeks, Mr. Downey? Thank you so much. Also, the signage about the dogs staying on leash, can we do that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't need a sign. We have a bylaw that states that people should have their dogs on a leash. My recommendation is if that is a concern in this particular area, that we dispatch bylaw to enforce that particular bylaw. There is only one area in town where dogs are allowed to be off leash, and that's in the off-leash park.
Well, I know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you're a realist, Mr. Downey, and the reality is that people don't pay attention to that sign. I've had a couple of altercations with residents who have been have said very unpleasant things.
Councilor Gartner, can I ask you to come back to the motion?
Yeah, no. So I'm saying we need like another sign that says "Warning, nesting season. Keep your dogs on leash for the next few months," because they really don't pay attention to our signs. So would you please look into that as well? And these nesting structures, they sound like a good idea, and they just need to be on the side of Salamander Pond and maybe on the side of the water course, which would require the owner's permission. So I'm not going to go on and on. Could you please do whatever you can, and if you need some help with the research, I'd be very glad to do that. Thank you. And the amendment is all of the things that have been discussed at the council table plus $7,000 in the budget.
So you're asking for an amendment to be
I really like to ask for 8.
No, but what's the amendment?
So the amendment would be that
So you spoke to the
Staff-
amendment before you put it on the floor.
that staff investigate and follow through on the ideas that were discussed this evening, and that council put $8,000 in the budget for the necessary financial requirements.
Seconder?
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, can you take a stab at wordsmithing that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm bad at motions.
Something along the lines of that, that staff investigate various signage meant to protect the turtle population and include $8,000 or $7,000 in the budget.
Signage and nesting structures, please.
Certainly.
Signage and nesting structures. You have that, Mr. Clerk?
Absolutely.
Okay, can we
Because
get that
if they-
on the screen? And Councillor Humphreys is going to second it.
Thank you.
If we can get that on the screen, please. And
And then
Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I in full support of this. I just wanted to ask one question. I believe that staff had some concerns in terms of not being the experts around this, and they were hoping to get feedback. Residents can help? Okay. I just wondered if I can ask through you, Mr. Mayor, would staff
Mr. Downey?
be able to do this and work with LRCA and also some residents that could help them along the way?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to the signage, it's
No
some
problem.
research and
That's fine.
that's not an issue. We have
It's-
a sign shop and we can work on
It's the
it.
nesting.
The nesting areas, I will reiterate what I said last week. We do not have the in-house expertise in that. I'm not quite sure whether Conservation Authority does. I don't know whether they have staff who would be able to actually build these structures or create these structures. I don't know whether it's too late in the season in order to create these structures. So there's a lot of information I'm not aware of with regards to the structures. So I am hesitant to be able to say, yes, that's possible, without at least having a conversation with the Conservation Authority on their expertise and whether or not they had contractors or staff that would be able to come in and do that work.
Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you. I thought that there was also some residents that would offer to help as consultants and help build. And also, I don't know if staff would consider that as well. To get there's some expertise in from the residents' perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Nadarozny. I'm concerned about adding $7,000 to the operating budget at this point since we've already done it.
We're
So
allocating, not adding.
allocating?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because I was going to offer an alternative that while I don't want to increase the budget any more than where we're at today, should council decide that this is important enough, then we do have the council contingency fund, which does have $20,000 in it for us to determine how best to utilize it. And so that's fine if our CAO feels that he can allocate funds out of the operating budget, take care of it. Otherwise, perhaps an alternative source of funds would be the council contingency.
Mr. CO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to use up half your contingency 10 minutes after you pass the budget, so we'll find it and we'll allocate it from the existing budget.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the amendment? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I think Mr. Downey received an email. I think I received an email that the person, her name is Caitlin from Lake Simcoe, said that she would come down, like physically come down to the site and help us. I don't know if that was just the silt fence, but it seems to me she's got a lot of knowledge. She may not be, in quotes, an expert. So I think we should take her up on that. And I believe Councillor Humphreys and I would like to go, and perhaps Councillor Gilliland.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call the question on the amendment. Councillor Gardner? We're waiting for you. It was moved and seconded as it is on the screen. So we're just waiting for you to vote. Thank you. That carries. Main motion as amended. Call the question. That carries. Okay, council. Pardon? No, I was going to ask that we do the regional report and get it out of the way right now, quickly, before we go do that. Or unless is there a lot of questions on the regional report? If there are, we can wait. If not, we can just get it out of the way right now. You'll move it? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions on the regional report? Councillor Gardner.
To admit I haven't read it. Is there anything important for Aurora on it?
Right now, it just speaks to the fact that we approved the budget. It talks about the budget and the aspects of the budget. If you'd like more information to sit down, I'll be more than welcome to sit down with you and go through the budget line by line, if you'd like.
I do not accept that invitation.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there. Any counselor that would like to sit down in my office and go through that, I'm more than welcome to do that.
Thank you.
So any other comments or questions on the regional report? Seeing none, I'll call the question. That's unanimous. Council, there's one more actually, considering we have someone sitting in the audience, a resident, for that bylaw A. If we can just deal with that before we take the recess and go back into close. So if we can move that forward, I need a motion to move that forward, right? Sure. Motion to move it forward, Councillor Humphreys. Yeah, Councillor Thompson. All those in favor of moving it forward, just by hands? That carries. Okay, so bylaw number A, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 5840-16 as amended, respecting signs within the town of Aurora. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And while I really do appreciate...
Oh, I need a seconder.
I'm sorry.
You want to move this as is?
No.
No? Someone want to move this as is? Or do you want to, what is it that you want to do? You want
All
to
I
refer
want to do
it?
is, can we move it, can we just take it out for now and refer it to staff to wait for comments from the BIA?
Mr. Clerk, do you have a suggestion?
Newly formed business.
Refer
It's
to
just
staff?
one cycle, one or whatever.
2 cycles?
Yeah, 2 cycles, I'm sorry. Only because it's, we've waited this long. Let's try to get it out. I'm sure it's perfect, but let's see the feedback we get. We heard from Dr. Moore tonight. Maybe there's some considerations, fine tuning, and then we get it out there and see what it's like.
Okay, so motion to refer back to staff for 2
Yes.
cycles?
Yes.
Okay. Someone want to second that? Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Gallo? To the amendment, or to the referral, sorry.
I just want some clarity on because I don't remember. Did we have a report that
Yes.
outlined all of this, and how far back was that
This
report?
would be part of last term,
So not recent.
not recently. Not this term. I don't think there was anything that came this term, was there? No. July 17th, 2018.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So I'm happy to do this. Also, the entire bylaw is not here. These are just, I guess, the segments that we're changing or
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. This is an amending bylaw, so it was only dealing with portable signs. So we amended the sections of the bylaw that respecting portable signs.
Yeah, it was a little confusing following what the delegate, because some of the references that the delegate had brought up are not actually part of this amendment. I think maybe there's other amendments that were being suggested. So anyways, I'm happy it's going back and for further discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gilliland, to the amendment, or to the referral, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Councillor Gallo and Councillor Humphreys had said. I think it's important that we do, maybe take consideration of what we got on the floor with the new amendments and take consideration what the BIA has to say. I think it's really important to kind of get their feedback. It is a new committee, and there are some really great amendments that we do have on the go. And perhaps when we do refer to the BIA, maybe they'll bring some ideas that maybe we didn't really think of doing. That would be best for the downtown core. So I'm looking forward to hopefully we're all supporting this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Kim, to the referral, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that the bylaw that's on the table right now is, from my understanding from the delegate, is an improvement over what we had before, but it hasn't moved enough. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Van Leeuwen, should the BIA come back in in the next couple of weeks or so, when they had time to digest the amendment and the current bylaws, if they are in favor of making more severe changes or drastically different than what it is right now, what would be the proper, what do you think is the most efficient way to go about that? Is it to pass the amendment to the sign bylaw and put a motion forward to make those necessary changes, or is it to just make revisions to the current amendment?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, currently our sign bylaw does not permit portable signs, so by referring this back to staff, we will not be able to permit portable signs. If the BIA has further changes, I think it would be in our best interest to do a more comprehensive review and public consultation, in my opinion, so it may take longer than 2 cycles, depending on what the comments are. If it's related to more sections of the sign bylaw, if we're talking about all signage, it would require a comprehensive review and takes significant time.
Councillor Kim?
Okay, so thank you. So what I'm hearing is when we hear feedback from the BIA and it's drastically different from and more broader in scope than what we have on the table, your recommendation is to turn this amendment down and to start fresh on public outreach, feedback, and so forth.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not necessarily suggesting that we don't amend the sign bylaw to permit portable signs. We've heard significant feedback from our business community that they're in favor of portable signs, and they've been asking when this amendment was going to come forward, and this was a result of a motion that came forward last year in the spring respecting portable signs only. So staff went, they did their review, they provided a comparison table of what other municipalities are doing, best practices, and these amendments were these proposed amendments were accepted by council, and staff were directed to come back with these amendments.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. So what I'm hearing now, which I'm hearing better now with my better ear, is that because you don't have a sandwich sign bylaw now, let's pass this and work with the BIA and other groups and the delegate to have a more detailed review of our sign bylaw and go from there. Is that your recommendation?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to see these proposed amendments passed tonight so that we can start the process of permitting portable signs. As I've mentioned, we've heard some feedback from our business community that they're very much in favor of this. We did meet with the Chamber of Commerce at the time as well, and they were in agreement with these changes.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Van Loen. That really clarifies everything. For me, then, I won't support the amendment because we don't have sandwich sign. We don't allow sandwich signs now, so this would just really be a benefit to the business immediately. And it seems like, you know, what the delegate and the BIA may come back with is something more detailed, and I think that can be dealt with the more comprehensive dialogue back and forth with the business community. And so I will not be for the amendment, and I prefer the original motion, which is to pass the bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Humphreys, second time.
Thank you. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so there's two concerns I have with that. The first one is, although, you know, we heard some positive feedback, I did see a sign size in this size that we were recommending, and I felt it was quite small. And I don't know if the BIA or the Chamber understands the actual size of the sign. Do you know, through you, Mr. Mayor, do they actually know that signage sign, the size of it?
Ms. Van Loen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we sat down with all the proposed changes, including the sign height, sign size, all of the provisions, and provided them with a comparison table, and they were in agreement.
They were in agreement?
Yes,
Okay.
they were.
All right, that was the Chamber. And then the second thing is, there's just one thing that I would like looked at, is the permitting. Is that for every, like, is that just a one-time fee? Or is that every year, may I ask?
Ms. Van Loen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a one-year permit.
So every year they have to renew?
Yes. And again, in comparison to other municipalities, that's actually the longest period of permit provisions. A lot of them are 21 days, 30 days.
Really?
Yeah, there's several that are a year-long permit, but yes.
And
Councillor Humphreys?
through you, Mr. Mayor, so most municipalities are actually, okay, see, my concern is, through you, Mr. Mayor, is that it's a yearly fee. Is it a standard fee, by the way, or is it depending on, I'm sorry, I should have.
It's all right, Ms. Van Loen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a $100 fee.
$100 a year, okay.
Councillor?
I just think that, you know, I understand that it's a reasonable charge, but, you know, our businesses do pay a lot of taxes in the, why do we want to why do we want to charge permits in the first place? Like, what's it do for us other than make revenue? What helps us? What?
Ms. Van Loen?
The motion that was approved outlined some regulatory provisions with a fee to offset enforcement costs. There will be enforcement costs.
Councillor?
Okay. Enforcement costs. I'm trying to understand enforcing what if they get a permit fee. Sorry. Anyway, for me, I'm not sure I agree with that. That's fine. Anyway, my motion is to continue to refer back.
Refer it.
I support it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Thompson, to the referral.
For sure. Through to Ms. Van Loen. Ms. Van Loen, the bylaw in front of us, does it touch on anything that was not in the report on July 24th, 2018, roughly 6 months ago, that Council unanimously passed?
Ms. Van Loen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it does not.
Thank you. So Council had a long debate about this, approved everything, told staff to bring the bylaw forward. As you remember, we went into an election mode. There were no meetings. So this is the first opportunity to come back with it. And now we're saying no change everything?
Councillor Gilliland.
I didn't really compare the notes, just commenting to Councillor Thompson, but from what I understood, that some of the amendments were, I guess, a little more stricter than what they had originally had recommended back in July. I don't know if that's true, Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we brought back the exact proposed amendments that we brought forward in July.
Okay. As far as, I know there's been a long time going, and since that time we did elect this new BIA, and they did express that they really wanted to have some input. I know I'd spoken with the president, and she had expressed that she really wanted to talk to the board, and they really wanted to have a conversation about it tonight. I think it's fair that we reach out to them and at least get some feedback. Maybe the changes are very minimal and it's something that we can come back to the council really quickly. If it's something that's erogenous and long, I understand that could be a challenge, but I think we want to get it right. And you know, if we can just wait a couple cycles, I really don't see the harm in at least including this group whom we felt was very important to represent revitalizing our downtown core. And I think it's important that we listen to what they have to say and maybe take that in consideration. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I threw you to Ms. Van Leeuwen. Ms. Van Leeuwen, did you say that you had been in contact, the department had been in contact with all the business owners along Yonge?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we consulted with the Chamber
of
Commerce.
Chamber.
And they actually sent out a survey to their membership, and then staff met with them on several occasions and presented our proposed amendments, and they did actually delegate at that council meeting in July.
Thank you. You know, it would be a courtesy to wait till the BIA discusses it. But on the other hand, Councillor Thompson is right. This was passed unanimously. A lot of work has gone into this. This has been thoroughly vetted. Ms. Van Leeuwen we've made Ms. Van Leeuwen crazy about this. Sorry. It's true because it's hard. It's an emotional subject. It's hard to get it right. It involves money. It involves our businesses. But I think that Ms. Van Leeuwen has done the best possible bylaw. So what will we do if the BIA comes back with suggestions to change it?
We can amend it. Councillor, we can continue to amend it.
Yes, but my point is I think that we have the best possible bylaw in front of us right now, and it's had a lot of staff work. And so we'll insult the BIA if we don't listen to what they've said to us. So I don't know exactly what to do yet.
Councillor Gallo.
I think for me it's twofold. One has been mentioned. We have a new body that's representing the business owners, and that has not had a chance to weigh in on this. While perhaps through the chamber, one would argue that they did have a chance, but not directly as a new formed group. And I have no issue in terms of timing, having them. I don't think there's an urgency necessary to this, to have them review it. And secondly, you know, it's straight on our council agenda. While I can appreciate there was a GC, I guess, item, and probably went through to council back in the summer, and now it's the bylaw. I pay close attention to the bylaws because sometimes they do come straight to council and we make final decisions, and sometimes they're important decisions. So those two things combined, and no real urgency, I have no issues with referring it back, provided there's a venue for the BIA to provide comments if it's going to be coming back to straight to council or to a GC for their input.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Kim. Second.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, I'm all for continuous improvement, and I'm sure this, like any other bylaw, can always be improved. But the only other, besides, you know, the only other sign bylaw discussion is rather lengthy from past experience, and the only other more lengthier topic is our tree bylaw. And
Don't get into that one. Come on.
And so I know that from the last term that I highly doubt that it's going to be a simple little fix, and it'll drag on. And so this amendment is more business friendly, or it adds business friendliness than what we have now. So wouldn't it be best to satisfy the business needs now, and we can continue to work to improve upon the bylaw that we will or hope to approve today, or what's in front of us today. So for me, it just makes sense to approve this because it's more friendlier than what we have now, and then we can spend a lot more time, take our time, discuss with the new generation of BIA and other business owners, and without this ticking clock over our heads. Because, like I said, like the tree bylaw, this is going to be an ongoing discussion, and we're going to be deferring. So we had this opportunity here. We've had the discussions from last term, so I don't see the sense in having to defer this. I'll respect it if it is, but my view is let's just pass this now and take our time working with the BIA and other constituents to improve upon it.
Not seeing any other comments. From my perspective, I'm a little bit torn as well. I mean, we did pass this unanimously before, and we are here, and we've come to a bylaw that's in front of us. On one hand, I think that we should move forward. But on the other end, similar to Councillor Gallows, which you mentioned, we have a new body, we have the BIA, and I wouldn't mind hearing their comments. Ms. Van Loon, I got our CAO pointing to me, kind of saying, giving me the, oh, is that what you were showing me? Oh, okay. So I'm just, I'm torn between the fact that do we move forward with this to allow businesses that have been asking to, put out these signs, and that we've made these amendments to the bylaw, and then continue to work with the BIA and the organizations, and we can make further amendments as we move forward. And so that's kind of where that's why I'm torn with this, and is I guess through you to through me to Ms. Van Leeuwen. Ms. Van Leeuwen, I don't know, could we do it, and could we get just some conversations going and have it back in front of us for the next council meeting, so it wouldn't have to wait 2 cycles? I would like to speed up the process, that's all. Is that possible?
To you, Mr. Mayor, certainly we can have conversations, and if they have some simple comments, we can bring it back in the next cycle. If we're going to, like I said, if we're going to do a more comprehensive review of all the other sections of the sign bylaw, it's going to take significantly longer period of time. But we can certainly deal with just portable signs perhaps in the next cycle based on their comments.
Mr. Seo?
See, Mr. Mayor, the only caution I would have to that is that presumably if there's advice coming from a BIA and more options and so on, in the past we've been criticized for bringing things directly to council, and there's not an opportunity for the proper debate. So that's why I suggested 2 cycles, because we're actually going to approve the agenda tomorrow or Thursday for the next cycle, those reports. So it'd be preferable to give us 2 cycles to bring this back if you want to not pass the bylaw and consider an amendment in a short term.
Thank you, Mr. Seo. And I guess, just hearing that, even though I am somewhat torn, I want to get that conversation with the BIA. I do believe probably the better way to move forward with this is to approve the bylaw as amended, so like as it's been presented to us, and then have those consultations, speak with the BIA, continue to work with the business community, and we can work towards a more comprehensive report that comes to us and looking at further amending this bylaw, but at least get it moving so we can get our businesses to start putting out what we unanimously supported. So I think that's where I'm going to stand on this one. Councillor Humphreys, this is actually your third. Sorry, I'm going to pass you. Councillor Thompson.
I'll direct it to Ms. Van Leeuwen. I'm not sure if she can answer or not, but do we know if the BIA is just limiting their conversation around the sign bylaw to this one section, or do we think that they might also look at the sign bylaw in its, a broader perspective and have additional suggestions that are outside of this that would then support your, thoughts about having a more comprehensive look at things and bring it back?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not certain because I haven't had any conversations yet, but I would think as a BIA, they would have an interest in the larger bylaw and all aspects of signage and advertising.
Thank you, and I would think so too. Listen, I certainly, value their feedback and their input, but I think that, let's take this first step, let's put this into place, because those reviews or revisions may take a little bit longer than we suspected, and there are businesses that like to move forward with this. We heard it through the chamber that they want to do this. Spring's here, it's a time to start putting out the signs and promoting your businesses, so we can continually amend it, and certainly, based on the feedback we receive back from them, we may want to take a broader perspective, or maybe it's simple and we just move straight to doing it in 2 meeting cycles, but let's start now.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Seeing no other comments or questions on the referral, call vote. Councillor Gardner? No, it didn't show. Well, now it did. The referral fails. Back to the main motion. Call the question. How many times is it once? Councillor Humphreys, go ahead.
This really quick. Thank you. No, that's fine. I'm in favor of moving this forward. Obviously, to stop it now would be silly. The only thing is I'd like a venue for the BIA and the chamber and other businesses to provide their feedback, because there are some businesses that are not part of the chamber that I've been speaking to, and that's what I wanted to say earlier. And the sign that we're recommending, maybe they weren't as informed as the chamber, but the sign is much smaller than the current A-frames that they've got. So these businesses, including ones on industrial, are going to have to get all new signs, the ones they put away. And the second thing is, I don't think they knew clearly that it was $100 a year.
That's fine. So, Councillor Humphreys, what I'll suggest is, and I'll throw it out there if it makes sense, Ms. Van Leeuwen, maybe we can invite Joanne Russo from the BIA. Dr. Moore could come out and come to my office. We can sit down and we can have a discussion about what, and even the chamber. We can ask Sandra Ferry to come as well, and we can sit down and we can have a conversation on some of the suggestions that they would like to put forward and they would like to see. If that satisfies Councillor Humphreys,
that'd be great. Thanks.
Perfect. Councillor Gardner.
I would like to thank Ms. Van Leeuwen and the last council for approving this unanimously. The A-frame signs cause a lot of problems visually and otherwise, and they make certain areas of the town just look really junky. I don't know what better expression there is to use. So, and I know there will be enforcement required, and I mean, everybody at this table wants to support local business, but we also want to have the town looking good. And so I think we've just done that. We've passed this, and thank you, Ms. Van Leeuwen.
Councillor Thompson.
Actually, I'd like to apologize to former Councillor Paul Perry. I believe he voted against it.
You know what? We'll probably see a text from him at some point. All right, so I'll call the vote. That carries 6-1. Okay. That's for Paul? Thank you, Councillor. Pardon? So Council, we will recess right now, but before we recess, if I can just explain to everyone that is here, before we deal with Councillor Gartner's motion that was deferred from February 26th, we need to deal with an item in closed session, so we are going back into there, and then we will be back out to deal with Councillor Gartner's motion and the other bylaws as well. So we are in recess. No, because we just recessed. All right, Council, we are going to resume. We are at motions. We're deferred from our council meeting of February 26th. Need someone to move and second this? Councillor Kim, Councillor Gardner. Oh, Councillor Gardner, Councillor Kim. Sorry. Yeah, Councillor Gallo, did you want to make an amendment, or did you want to do that? Your screen's down? Yeah, his screen's down. Councillor Gallo?
Mr. Mayor, the amendment would be to remove the closed session reports, and the rest can stay in, and then we can comment on why.
Okay. Sheeta, did you get that? Can we get that amendment on the screen, please? Does someone want to second that? To remove the closed session report? Councillor Humphreys? Would anyone like to speak to that amendment? Councillor Gallo, did you want to start? Go ahead.
Sure. The rationale, and maybe we can also clarify with our solicitor that the information in closed session, and I want to be careful with my words, does not pertain to the minor variance application that is or will be before the Committee of Adjustments, just to clarify through our solicitor, through you to our solicitor.
Mr. Serio?
Through you, Mayor Marakis, yes, that is correct. The closed session has nothing to do with any planning matter or any information regarding the minor variance application.
And the release of it could potentially cause risk or harm to the corporation. That's why there's no value to releasing it.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Would anyone else like to speak to that amendment? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it was a tough one for me because I always like to listen to our solicitor. But I think that there's no harm in releasing it, and I would like to make the residents happy. So I will vote against the amendment.
Councillor Humphreys. One sec. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From my perspective, yes, I'd like to release any and all information that would benefit the residents. But as per legal counsel, the information that in the closed session report, really, I don't see any benefit for the residents at all, and I will be taking legal counsel's opinion for this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Anyone else? I'd like to just add one thing. Yes, Councillor Gallo?
Currently being considered by council in closed session as well.
Is that you're adding that to your amendment?
Yeah, that needs to be added.
So who seconded that again? Councillor Humphreys? Are you okay with that? Okay. Mr. Clerk, you good with that?
That's on the screen. It's all references to closed session.
Okay. I just, Councillor Gallo, did you want to speak again? Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to be clear, there will be other information that will be released. It's just that one document that won't be. There'll be plenty of other correspondence that will be released.
100%. Thank you, Councillor. And I was just going to make mention that because it says closed session reports and minutes, just to make everyone aware that there actually is only just one document that we're actually speaking to. It's not like there's many documents that we were looking at. It was just one document. And I agree. Our advice from our solicitor is that this could bring harm to the corporation, to the town. And at the end of the day, we've all looked at it and we don't see the value that this would bring in any of the planning decisions. It has nothing to do with it, other than it has the name of the properties on it. Councillor Gardner.
Could our lawyers say how it could cause harm to the town? Is that not an appropriate question?
Mr. Serio?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There's information, okay, yeah, I guess I can. There was information that was provided by the previous town solicitor, and it had legal advice in regard to the issue. And the issue, I can say, was a claim. And the claim may not be entirely completed, so there might be a risk to the corporation if the advice that's in the claim, the advice that's in the report is released.
Specifically to the claim from, we're talking about
from that time.
The claim from that time?
Yes. And it might not necessarily be in regard to that actual claim, but there could be other potential claims that could arise out of it.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you.
I'll call the vote on the amendment. Carries 6-1. Call the question on the main motion as amended. That carries unanimously. Okay, Council, new business. Councillor Gilliland. Nope, new business. Not PSAs, new business. You okay? Councillor Humphreys, new business. Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. This is from the February 26th, I don't know if it was council or GC, it's to Mr. Serio. I raised the question of the sewer use bylaw with respect to draining pools and hot tubs. And you said you would look into it.
Mr. Serio?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that the sewer bylaw doesn't have anything to do with my area. It has
no,
to
there
do
was
with
a legal, okay, Mr. Clerk, maybe you could dig up that, the sewer use, my motion on the sewer use bylaw, because I think Councillor Peary referred it to legal because to check if there was a conflict with the region, but the region doesn't have anything about pools and hot tubs in it, so it wouldn't be a conflict. And we're getting into the season to drain.
Mr. Serio?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we'll look into it.
Thank you.
I thought it was dealt with, but we can look into it and see what's
No.
next steps. What we have
Thank
to do.
you, really would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson? Councillor Gallo? Public service announcements. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Registrations are now open for spring and summer programs, summer camps, and spring aquatics programs. Pick up a copy of the program guide at the recreational facilities, Town Hall, Aurora Public Library, or Aurora Cultural Center. You can also view the program guide online at www.aurora.ca/rec-guide.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. The town of Aurora is currently looking for youth candidates for the John West Memorial Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarship Award. Students entering post-secondary school who have made a positive impact on the community have the chance to win $1,000. The application deadline is May 1st. Visit aurora.ca/leaders of tomorrow for more information.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner?
Join us for Aurora's Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 20th from 9:30 to 1 at the Aurora Senior Center. Tickets are $6 per child and can be purchased at the Aurora Town Hall, the Leisure Complex, or the SARC. If you want more information, aurora.ca/Easter egg hunt.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Kim? I think everyone's favorite topic.
A reminder that winter overnight parking restrictions continue to be in effect. The town's bylaw states that cars must be off the road between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. through to April 15. We thank you for your cooperation in keeping the roads free from parked vehicles during the prohibited times.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Humphreys.
Good job. Thank you. I actually have two.
You have two.
Yes. The town of Aurora, too bad for you guys. The town of Aurora believes in inspiring, volunteering, and recognizing citizens who have made a positive impact in our community. We are currently accepting nominations for the 2019 Community Recognition Awards, and the nomination process is now easier than ever before. Take a few minutes to recognize the amazing people in our community. Deadline to apply is April 5th. Visit aurora.ca/RCA for more information. And
This one wasn't authorized, but go ahead. No, I'm just joking.
this has not been authorized by our mayor, but he supports it. This Saturday, and Bowl for Kids' Sake, Newmarket, Stellar Lanes. If you don't have a team, I think there's still room for teams. We're going to be bowling this Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. Aren't you leading the team?
Well, that's if I was in town.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry, it's my 20th wedding anniversary. It was a big surprise. I'm going on a big, big vacation. Anyway, I know you guys will do a great job, so thank you.
Councillor Gilliland. Thank you, Councillor Humphreys.
On Saturday, April 27th, we have Aurora's Movie in the Sarks screening Mary Poppins Returns. Poppies. Join us for pre-movie games and activities and settle in for the movie on the jumbo screen in the FAF Arena. Be sure to bring your lawn chairs and blankets.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. And this one's actually quite fitting to end on. I mean, considering the change in weather, we're starting to see a lot of dirt and garbage around town that's been left behind. So help keep Aurora beautiful by joining us for the annual cleanup day on Saturday, April 13th at 8 a.m. And anyone that wants to sign up or get more information, they can visit aurora.ca/waste and recycling, and you can get all the information, sign up, and come out and have a fun day cleaning up our town and making it beautiful. All right, Council, back to the bylaws. Remaining bylaws. Can I get a motion to... Can I get the motion first on the floor, and then I'll move to you? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gardner, want to speak to it?
I just wanted to know there's a change in the bylaw about the site plan control area.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wondered why.
Ms. Desario, number C there.
Report that was brought to council shortly through you, Mr. Mayor. It's in regard to the initial site plan control bylaw was passed, and it's in regards to minor site plans and site plan applications that are around the industrial area.
Councillor Gardner?
The wording is changed to business park as opposed to commercial institutional or commercial industrial.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's part of the change, yes. But that's not the reason.
Isn't that the whole change?
The whole change was having delegated authority to approve those applications in the business park, in the areas.
We had an issue with the one by the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right, it said, okay.
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 You good?
Thank you.
Okay. Call the question. That carries. Confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Gallo. Call a question. Councillor Thompson. That's all right, thank you. That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor, hands up. Opposed, that carries. We are adjourned. We have to do open session from closed session. So we need